5 ways to forego regret in your 50s. I'm going to tell you something that nobody talks about. Your 50s are not the beginning of the end. They're the beginning of the best season of your life, but only if you make the right decisions now. Right now, at this very moment, you're standing at a crossroads. The choices you make in your 50s will determine whether you enter your 60s, 70s, and 80s with deep satisfaction and peace, or with crushing regret and bitterness. And here's what terrifies me. Most people in their 50s are making decisions based on fear, comfort, and what society tells them they should be doing at this age. And those decisions are setting them up for decades of regret. I've counseled hundreds of people in their 70s and 80s. I've sat with them in their final years, and I've heard their regrets. I've listened to them pour out their hearts about what they wish they had done differently. And you know what? Almost all of their regrets trace back to decisions they made or didn't make in their 50s. But it doesn't have to be that way for you. I'm going to share with you 5 ways to forego regret in your 50s. And the 5th one is going to challenge everything you believe about this season of life. Because the 5th way requires you to do something that feels completely counterintuitive, something that goes against every piece of conventional wisdom about aging. But it's the one thing that separates those who finish well from those who finish with regret. But first, let me ask you this. How old are you right now? Drop your age in the comments. Are you in your 50s? Approaching your 50s? Already past them? Because no matter where you are, what I'm about to share will either prepare you, equip you, or convict you. So go ahead, drop your age in the comments right now. Now, the first way to forego regret in your 50s has to do with something most people get completely wrong. They think this season is about slowing down, about coasting, about preparing to retire. But that mindset creates one of the deepest regrets people carry into their final years. Way number 1, stop living for retirement and start living for legacy. Here's the lie that our culture has sold you. The goal of your 50s is to prepare for retirement so you can finally relax, travel, and enjoy life. And millions of people have bought this lie. They spend their 50s counting down to 65, counting down to the day they can stop working, counting down to when they can finally do what they want. But here's what happens. They get to retirement and they discover it's not what they thought it would be. The travel gets old, the relaxation feels empty, the freedom feels aimless, and they realize they've spent the last season of their productive life preparing for something that doesn't satisfy. I've watched it happen over and over again. People retire at 65, and by 67, they're depressed. They have no purpose, no direction, no reason to get up in the morning. They thought retirement was the goal, and they discover it's actually a crisis. Let me tell you what the research shows. People who retire with no sense of purpose have significantly higher rates of depression, cognitive decline, and even early death. Retirement without purpose is dangerous. So here's the shift you need to make in your 50s. Stop living for retirement and start living for legacy. Ask yourself, what do you want to be remembered for? What impact do you want to have on this world? What will outlast my life? Your 50s are not the end of your productivity. They're the beginning of your most impactful years. You have experience, you have wisdom, you have resources, you have credibility, you have time. Everything you need to make a lasting difference. Let me ask you, what legacy do you want to leave? Not what you think you should say, but what genuinely matters to you. Drop it in the comments. What do you want to be remembered for? I know a man who spent his entire career in corporate America, climbed the ladder, made good money, planned for retirement, and when he turned 55, something shifted in him. He realized he didn't want to spend the next 10 years just building his retirement account. He wanted to build something that mattered. So he started a nonprofit that provides clean water to villages in Africa. He used his business skills, his network, his resources, and now, at 68, he's impacted over 200 villages. Over 100,000 people have clean water because he decided in his 50s to live for legacy instead of retirement. That's what I'm talking about. Now, does this mean you shouldn't plan financially for your later years? Of course not. Be wise, be responsible, but don't make retirement your goal. Make impact your goal. Because here's what I've learned from talking to people at the end of their lives. Nobody, and I mean nobody, says they wish they had relaxed more. Nobody says they wish they had taken more vacations. Nobody says they wish they had played more golf. But many people say they wish they had done something that mattered. They wish they had invested in people. They wish they had taken risks for something bigger than themselves. They wish they had left a legacy. Your 50s are your legacy years. Don't waste them counting down to retirement. But here's the thing about living for legacy. It requires something from you. It requires energy. It requires passion. It requires health. And that brings us to the second way to forego regret in your 50s. Because if you don't get this second one right, you won't have the capacity to do anything with the first one. The second way is physical, and it's more important in your 50s than it's ever been. Way number 2, prioritize your health like your life depends on it, because it does. Let me be brutally honest with you. Your body is not going to cooperate with your plans if you don't take care of it. And your 50s are the decade where the choices you make about your health will either set you up for vitality or doom you to decline. This is not a motivational speech about looking good in a bathing suit. This is about functionality. This is about whether you're going to have the energy, the strength, and the mental clarity to do what God has called you to do in your final decades. I've watched people in their 50s ignore their health. They're busy, they're stressed, they're working hard, and they tell themselves they'll focus on health later, after they retire, after things slow down. But by the time they retire, the damage is done. They're on 6 medications, they have chronic pain, they can't walk without getting winded, they can't think clearly because their brain has been suffering from inflammation and poor nutrition for years. And then they spend their 60s and 70s managing diseases instead of living their dreams. The biggest regret I hear from people in their 70s and 80s is, I wish I had taken better care of my body when I was younger. Let me ask you honestly, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well are you taking care of your physical health right now? Be real. Drop your number in the comments, and if you're brave, tell me what you know you need to change. Here's what prioritizing your health looks like in your 50s. First, you move your body every day. Not occasionally, not when you feel like it, every day. Walking, lifting weights, swimming, yoga, whatever you can sustain. Because muscle mass declines rapidly after 50. Bone density decreases, balance deteriorates, and if you're not intentionally working against that decline, you're accelerating it. I know people in their 70s who are stronger and more mobile than people in their 50s. Why? Because they've been intentional for decades. Second, you fix your nutrition. Stop eating like you did in your 30s. Your metabolism has changed. Your hormones have changed. Your body's ability to process inflammation has changed. You need to eat like someone who wants to feel good, not just someone who wants to satisfy cravings. Cut the processed foods, reduce the sugar, increase the vegetables, drink more water. This is not complicated, but it requires discipline. Third, you get your sleep right. 7 to 8 hours, non-negotiable. Your body repairs itself during sleep. Your brain detoxifies during sleep. Your hormones regulate during sleep. If you're sacrificing sleep to be productive, you're actually destroying your ability to be productive long term. And fourth, you manage your stress. Chronic stress in your 50s will kill you in your 60s. I'm not being dramatic. Stress causes inflammation. Inflammation causes disease. Disease causes death. If you're living under constant pressure, constant tension, constant overwhelm, you're shortening your life.
Find ways to reduce stress. Say no more often. Simplify your schedule. Practice Sabbath rest. Spend time in prayer and meditation. Protect your peace.
And fifth, you address any health issues immediately. Don't ignore symptoms. Don't wait for things to get worse. If something is wrong, deal with it now while it's manageable. I know a man who ignored chest pain in his mid-50s, thought it was just stress, didn't want to bother going to the doctor, had a massive heart attack at 57, survived, but with permanent damage. Now he's 65 and can't do half the things he dreamed of doing. Don't be that person. Here's a practical question. What's one health change you know you need to make, but you've been putting off? Drop it in the comments. Maybe typing it out will be the push you need to actually do it. Your health in your 50s determines your capacity in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. Treat it like the sacred stewardship it is. But here's the challenge. Even if you have your health, even if you're living for legacy, there's something that can still rob you of peace and fill your later years with regret. And it has to do with relationships. The third way to forego regret in your 50s is relational, and it's one of the most painful regrets people carry. Because the third way requires you to address something you've probably been avoiding. Way number 3. Reconcile broken relationships before it's too late. There are people reading this right now who haven't spoken to a family member in years. Maybe it's a sibling, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's an adult child, maybe it's an old friend. And there's a reason. There was a conflict, there were words said, there was betrayal, there was hurt. And you've convinced yourself that you're fine with it. You've built a life without that person. You've moved on. But have you really? Because here's what happens. That person dies, or you get a diagnosis that makes you confront your own mortality, and suddenly all the reasons you had for staying away don't matter anymore, and the regret hits you like a freight train. I should have called. I should have forgiven. I should have tried harder. I should have been the bigger person. I've sat with people in hospice who used their final breaths to express regret over broken relationships. I've watched grown men weep over the fact that they never reconciled with their father before he died. I've seen women tormented because they never forgave their sister. Let me ask you something difficult. Is there someone you need to reconcile with? You don't have to name them, but I want you to think about it. If the answer is yes, just type yes in the comments. No explanation needed, just acknowledgement. Here's what I want you to understand. Your 50s are the decade to clean up relational debris. Not because the other person deserves it, not because what they did was okay, but because carrying unforgiveness, bitterness, and broken relationships into your final decades will poison everything. Ephesians 4:26-27 says, "Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold." Every day you hold on to anger, every month you stay in unforgiveness, every year you remain estranged, you're giving the enemy a foothold in your life. And that foothold grows, it spreads, it affects your health, your joy, your peace, your other relationships. Now I need to be clear, reconciliation doesn't always mean restoration of the relationship to what it was. Sometimes it just means releasing the bitterness. Sometimes it means forgiving from a distance. Sometimes it means setting boundaries while still extending grace. But it always means dealing with it, not ignoring it, not pretending it doesn't matter. I know a woman who hadn't spoken to her brother in 15 years. The rift started over their parents' estate, money, who got what. Accusations were made, lines were drawn. When she turned 55, she felt God prompting her to reach out. She resisted for months. She was right after all. He had been greedy. He had been dishonest. But the prompting wouldn't stop. Finally, she wrote him a letter. Not to rehash the past, just to say, "I forgive you. I release this. I want peace before one of us dies." He responded. They talked. They didn't become close. They didn't pretend the past didn't happen, but they released the bitterness. They found peace. She told me later, "I didn't realize how much that grudge was weighing on me until I released it. I feel 20 pounds lighter." That's what reconciliation does. It frees you. Here's my challenge to you. If there's someone you need to reconcile with, will you commit to reaching out within the next 30 days? Not next year, not someday, within 30 days. Type "I commit" if you're willing to do this. Your 50s are the decade to make peace. Don't wait until it's too late. But reconciling relationships is only part of the equation, because the fourth way to forego regret in your 50s has to do with what you're building, what you're investing in, and whether it will outlast you. The fourth way is about impact and investment, and it's where most people miss the mark entirely because they're investing in all the wrong things. Way number 4, invest in people, not just possessions. Here's a question that will reveal what you truly value. When you think about the next 10 to 15 years, what are you most excited about acquiring, achieving, or experiencing? Is it a nicer house, a better car, a vacation home, an RV for travel, financial security? Or is it seeing your children thrive, your grandchildren grow up knowing the Lord, mentoring the next generation, investing in someone's future? Because I'm going to tell you something that everyone learns too late. Possessions don't satisfy. They never have, they never will. King Solomon, the wealthiest man in history, tried everything. He had 700 wives, 300 concubines, unlimited wealth, every pleasure imaginable. And his conclusion? Meaningless, meaningless, everything is meaningless. He wrote in Ecclesiastes, "I hated all the things I had toiled for under the sun, because I must leave them to the one who comes after me." You can't take it with you. All the stuff you're accumulating, all the wealth you're building, all the toys you're buying, you're going to leave it all behind. But people are eternal. Souls are eternal. The impact you have on someone's life echoes into eternity. Let me ask you something. Who are you investing in right now? Not financially, but personally. Whose life are you pouring into? Drop a name or a relationship in the comments, and if you can't think of anyone, that's telling you something. Your 50s are the perfect season to become a mentor, a spiritual parent, an investor in people. You have experience that younger people desperately need. You have wisdom earned through mistakes and victories. You have resources, time, money, connections that could change someone's trajectory. But most people in their 50s are so focused on their own comfort and security that they miss the opportunity to multiply their impact through others. I know a man in his late 50s who decided to mentor young men from broken homes. He meets with 3 guys every week, takes them to breakfast, teaches them about finances, relationships, work ethic, faith. He's been doing it for 5 years. Those 3 young men are now thriving. They've broken generational cycles. They're good fathers. They're faithful husbands. They're productive members of society. And he tells me, "This is the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. More than building my business, more than making money. Watching these men become who God created them to be, that's what life is about. That's investing in people." Maybe for you, it's your grandchildren. Stop being the grandparent who just gives them gifts and start being the grandparent who gives them wisdom, values, and faith. Maybe it's your adult children. They're navigating marriage, parenting, career. They need your wisdom, not your criticism, not your control, your wisdom. Maybe it's someone at church, at work, in your neighborhood, someone younger who needs what you have to offer. Here's a practical question.
What's one thing you could teach someone younger than you? A skill, a life lesson, a spiritual truth? Drop it in the comments, because I guarantee there's someone who needs to learn exactly what you have to offer. The regret I hear most often from people in their final years is this: I wish I had invested more in people and less in things. Don't let that be your regret. But now we come to the fifth way to forego regret in your 50s. And I warned you at the beginning, this one is going to challenge you, because everything in our culture tells you the opposite. Everything in our society says that your 50s should be about pulling back, slowing down, playing it safe. But the fifth way requires you to do something radical, something risky, something that might scare you. But it's the difference between people who finish their lives with satisfaction and those who finish with the haunting words, "I wish I had."
Way number 5. Take the risks you've been afraid to take. This is the one that separates those who live with regret from those who live with satisfaction. At some point in your 50s, you have to stop playing it safe and start taking the risks God has been calling you to take. I'm not talking about reckless risks. I'm not talking about foolish decisions. I'm talking about the God whispers you've been ignoring for years, the dreams you've been suppressing, the calls you've been resisting. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's going back to school. Maybe it's moving to serve in missions. Maybe it's writing the book. Maybe it's leaving the comfortable career to pursue something meaningful. Maybe it's having the hard conversation. Maybe it's making the big change. Whatever it is, you know what it is. It's that thing that keeps coming back to your mind, that thing that makes your heart beat faster, that thing that both terrifies and excites you. And you've been telling yourself, "I'm too old, it's too late, I should have done this in my 30s, I need to be responsible, what will people think?" But here's the truth, your 50s are not too late, they're exactly on time. Moses was 80 when God called him to lead Israel out of Egypt. Abraham was 75 when God told him to leave everything and go to a land he'd never seen. Noah was 500 when he started building the ark. God is not done with you. Let me ask you, what's the dream or calling you've been ignoring? What has God been whispering to you that you've been too afraid to pursue? You don't have to share details, but just type, "I hear you," if you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've talked to too many people in their 70s and 80s who say the same thing. "I wish I had taken the risk. I wish I had tried. I wish I hadn't played it so safe." You know what they don't say? They don't say, "I'm so glad I stayed comfortable." They don't say, "I'm so glad I didn't embarrass myself." They don't say, "I'm so glad I prioritized security over significance." The biggest regrets people carry aren't about what they did, they're about what they didn't do. And here's what I've learned. The fear of failure in your 50s is way overblown. You know why? Because you have less to lose than you think and more time than you realize. Your kids are grown, your career is established, you have some financial stability, you have experience, you have skills, you have credibility. This is actually the perfect time to take a risk. And even if you fail, so what? You're not going to starve, you're not going to be homeless, you'll learn something, you'll grow, you'll have tried. But if you don't try, you'll spend your final decades wondering what could have been. So here's my final question for you. What's one risk you need to take in the next 6 months? Just one. Something that scares you but excites you. Something God has been calling you to. Drop it in the comments and let's encourage each other to actually do it. Your 50s are not the sunset, they're the summit. The view from here is incredible, but only if you're willing to keep climbing. Closing. Let me bring this home. I've given you 5 ways to forego regret in your 50s. Stop living for retirement and start living for legacy. Prioritize your health like your life depends on it, because it does. Reconcile broken relationships before it's too late. Invest in people, not just possessions. Take the risks you've been afraid to take. These aren't suggestions, these are life and death decisions. The choices you make right now will determine whether you enter your final decades with peace or with regret. You're not too old, you're not too late, you're right on time for the most impactful, most fulfilling, most significant season of your life. But it requires intentionality, it requires courage, it requires faith. So what are you going to do? Are you going to coast through your 50s waiting for retirement, or are you going to seize this decade and make it count? The choice is yours. Choose wisely. Your future self is counting on you. Now drop a comment and tell me which of these 5 ways hit you the hardest. Which one do you need to act on first?